Welcome back to the world of Deeptech for this first video of 2021. In this video, we will try to understand the ecosystem factors that influence the success of commercializing advanced technologies. Deeptech ventures that engage in commercializing advanced technologies generally have a global market. So, it's not unusual for them to grow by establishing their research, development, manufacturing and deployment in different countries. Understanding the strengths and weaknesses of different ecosystems will help these ventures establish their operations by taking advantage of the strengths of the different ecosystems. Now, ecosystem is a word that has attracted a lot of attention with very different definitions. Here, we'll use it to identify different exogenous factors that impact the commercialization speed and path. In order to successfully commercialize advanced technologies, we need a healthy pipeline of these technologies. In developed economies with a long history of government and industry-sponsored research, this is often well established. In developing economies like India, the situation can be very different. In order to have a strong pipeline of advanced technologies to commercialize, we need a strong research cluster. The first component of this cluster is institutional support. At the macro scale, this means setting a clear mission for the research organizations. One way this mission statement can be supported by action is to use the criteria such as time-bound commercialization potential as an important criteria in peer reviews and funding evaluations. Such work could also be prioritized as part of recruitment, promotion, and salary increments. It could also include soft-touch approaches like celebrating the successes of researchers doing such work. Creating a mission and institutional mechanisms will be of little use if the research cluster does not have the experts who can lead this kind of research and a team of researchers who can work with the experts to develop these technologies. This requires a good education system that can attract such experts to the institute and create the pipeline of such researchers. These researchers should have access to various forms of information such as databases and journals to conduct their research. They also need equipment and specialized infrastructure like clean rooms and adequate space to conduct their research. Above all, adequate quantity of funding that is reasonably accessible should be available. A well-funded research cluster with high-quality experts and researchers where commercializability is emphasized and supported with adequate information sources and hardware infrastructure can produce high-quality technology rapidly. However, this research output is generally far from market ready and care should be taken to adequately protect the resulting intellectual property. This is where the second component of the ecosystem, the innovation cluster, comes in. The first component of this cluster is the Technology Transfer Office. Typical responsibilities of a Technology Transfer Office include patentability and commercializability analysis, protection of IP, and commercialization of the technology via licensing or spin-offs. This office can also help structure contracts with industry partners for establishing collaborations to further develop and demonstrate the technology. To translate the technology into tangible solutions that end users can use, the innovation cluster should include physical and virtual platforms to bring together people with different skills. The innovation cluster should consist of innovative industry players and consumers who are willing to accept a less than perfect but potentially better solution to their problems. The physical platform for doing the technology translation includes physical space and equipment and infrastructure required for pilot production and field testing. Standardized test bedding facilities and demonstration platforms that are accessible to all innovators with suitable technologies can also accelerate their adoption. Enabling the technology transfer and translation requires a combination of science, engineering, legal, and business skills with specific domain knowledge. In an ecosystem where innovation is a fairly new phenomenon, this requires tapping into experts from other ecosystems and developing training programs both for innovators and industry players to acquire them. To keep this whole innovation cluster functioning seamlessly, substantial long-term government funding and patient private capital should be available in the ecosystem. While the research cluster can enable creation of high-impact deep tech ideas, and the innovation cluster can enable protection and creation of field-validated prototypes, the real social and economic impact of the technologies is realized only when a large number of customers pay for and use the solution. The part of the ecosystem that enables the creation of this impact is the entrepreneurial cluster, that not only supports young startups but also existing companies developing and commercializing advanced technologies. A key part of the entrepreneurial cluster is the entrepreneur herself. The probability of success of commercialization efforts in different domains is substantially increased with increasing availability of experienced entrepreneurs and industrial players. Success of startups also depends on the availability of network of incubators that nurture young teams by supporting them with product development and business creation activities. Another important component of the cluster is the availability of investors at different stages of venture growth. These investors not only bring in funding but also add their expertise and networks to help the ventures grow. Next, we need people with specialized skills to be part of these ventures and experienced mentors with a variety of skills to guide them. Deep tech commercialization, especially those that are manufacturing intensive, requires significant product development and manufacturing expertise. It also needs support for manufacturing the product in different volumes and the infrastructure to support their specialized development and production needs. Finally, providing easy access to the domestic and international markets is another important contributor for the success of commercializing any new solution. So far, we have seen a view of these three clusters in their static form. Pieces of each of these clusters exist in some shape or form in emerging economies. Pioneers who want to commercialize advanced technologies find innovative ways to fill the gaps at great personal and professional cost. The first challenge faced by policymakers and other players who want to develop the ecosystem is connecting them to ensure smooth development and commercialization. Next, they have to identify the missing pieces and fill them by either expanding the function of existing pieces or developing new systems. The speed and nature of this evolution is primarily dependent on latent and manifested demand for the different missing pieces in the ecosystem. It's also based on the available resources and expertise to fill them. The driving and frictional forces that determine the demand are based on the next piece of the advanced technology commercialization ecosystem, the macro environment. Every individual in the economy is influenced by several cultural and social factors that either encourage or discourage her from being part of a deep tech ecosystem. Each of us belongs to different cultural groups, each with its own set of cultural values and ethics. In our context, a researcher in an academic institution belongs to the research community that has a different set of ethics and cultural norms compared to someone from the entrepreneurial community. Whether someone in either community goes outside these accepted norms depends on whether the society is more individualistic or collectivistic. In collective societies, individuals tend to stick to the community norms even if they are personally inclined to go outside them. So, in a research community where the accepted norm is to publish papers and train students, a researcher who wants to commercialize her technology may restrain herself. This will reduce the number of researchers inclined towards developing and commercializing advanced technologies. Similarly, in societies where uncertainty avoidance is high, individuals tend to take less risks and prefer status quo. Deep tech ventures with their high risk profile find less favor in those societies. Another way to think of influence of culture on deep tech ventures is to look at where individuals in society derive their individual identity. Individuals who believe their locus of control lies outside tend to live through adverse situations without really trying to change them. On the other hand, an individual with internal locus of control tends to proactively solve the challenges she faces. Another individual identity, innovativeness, determines whether a person thinks of herself as innovative. In societies where individuals have internal locus of control and consider themselves innovative, people tend to push themselves to solve the global challenges we collectively face by developing innovative solutions. Socially, the demographics of the society determines the number of people willing to enter the deep tech ecosystem. For example, it's easier to build a deep tech venture in a society with a large number of skilled and experienced people in a particular field. A society where people feel safe both for themselves and for their assets, and where there is good social infrastructure to take care of basic human needs like education and healthcare, provides a more conducive environment for creating risky deep tech ventures. Similarly, a society where an individual's status and dignity aren't adversely affected by failure of their ventures encourages entrepreneurship. A society where there is high dependency on others to accomplish any task creates a high level of friction to try new things. Here, the depth and breadth of one's network plays an important role in the success of the venture. Deep tech venturing involves contracts governing complex partnerships and sophisticated IP strategies. The legal infrastructure of the country, which refers to the clarity and consistency of the different laws, their enforceability, and its speed, impacts the inclination of individuals to participate in entrepreneurial ventures. The ecosystem should also have affordable and skilled legal consultants with adequate resources to make the legal framework transparent and enable the creation and growth of deep tech ventures. We already saw the importance of strong research and innovation clusters in creating deep tech ventures. Strong national policy that prioritizes the different components of these two clusters and the higher education system that forms their very foundation needs to be formulated and proactively implemented in the country. These policies should also enable ease of creating, doing, and winding of businesses. Policies that incentivize innovation and entrepreneurship in the society and long-term private financing of these ventures are also required. Consistency among these different policies and over time is especially important in deep tech venture creation as it is a long-term game. Being at the cutting edge of possibilities, advanced technology ventures require components and resources from different parts of the world, and the country should have policies to remove trade barriers that curtail the availability of these resources. As deep tech ventures open up new markets, the regulatory environment in the country should adapt to these new developments and reduce the uncertainty by clarifying the country's position. The speed with which this clarity emerges will determine the adoption of these new technologies. These will also help the deep tech ventures access investments and grow revenues domestically. They will also help establish these ventures strongly in the international markets. In addition to these factors, the enablers for broader businesses such as security, information and logistics infrastructure, and access to debt and equity financing for large-scale projects also have an impact on the success of deep tech ventures. In summary, we need an enabling macro environment in which strong higher education institutions coupled with research, innovation and entrepreneurial clusters can thrive to create a complete advanced technology commercialization ecosystem for nurturing deep tech ventures. These ventures will create social and economic impact from research by solving the grand challenges of our times. Thank you for watching. Before you go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.